Today we're going to look at building Kubernetes operators with Automatiko, and this is like a follow-up video after the first one, introducing that you can actually use workflows to build the operators. And today we're going to look and take it a bit further, meaning that how to take advantage of both workflows and Automatiko running in the Kubernetes cluster to develop the operator on the live cluster, so we can easily get quickly feedback on what's happening and so on. So to get started, what we need to do is, yes, we have our workflow, so this is pretty much the same workflow as we had before. So we have the 3 entry points: when created, when updated, when deleted. And now we want to make sure that we can actually have an advantage of Quarkus, which is used underneath Automatiko, with the so-called remote development mode. That means that we can bring the changes to the running application in container, and in our case in Kubernetes cluster, without redeploying it, recreating the image and so on and so forth. So first, what we need to do is simply uncomment those 3 parameters. What they said is that it will create a mutable jar. This is the packaging for Quarkus application. We set the password to protect our communication between the remote side of the application, and we changed the base JVM image to use the OpenJDK one, Adobe OpenJDK, and that is because we are automatically regenerates the workflow image file at the server side, so we need to have Linux fonts on the base image to make sure that this is properly generated, otherwise we would not have the image properly there. Alright, so let's get this going. So we simply do nvn clean package and container to build the container immutable format. Just double check this, we have everything enabled. So we quickly get that in. Let's see, so we have that, and it's building the container, pushing it, and let's wait a bit. Alright, come on. Alright, and we are all set. So we have the container built, so let's do the Kubernetes deployment of our operator. Deploy, yep, and we have it deployed, I believe. So let's look at our pod. Alright, it's already running. We can take a look quickly at what we have there. Let's look at the logs very quickly. See what's happening on the container side. We get this next. Alright, it's starting up. Alright, and we have it up and running. It's listening to the MySQL schema namespaces, and here is the relevant part, saying that we have the profile dev activated and live coding activated. Alright. So let's expose this, so we can actually get this going. And let's grab the URL. That's the browser. Here we just look at the browser, and then it's alright. We have our process. Everything is up and running, so let's start now the dev mode for it, and here it is. So what we do, we start in our project MySQL operator, we start the Quarkus remote dev, specifying Kubernetes our remote server. Right, so this will attempt to connect to the running service. And then once we have that going, we start interacting with the application itself, meaning our operator. So let's see what happens here if everything goes smoothly. Those exceptions can show up from time to time because the application reloads on the server side. So sometimes it might reach the 10 retries and it won't connect, but then yeah, we have to restart that again because it takes a while to redeploy everything and be connected to the server. You can see we failed it right now, so let's give it a go once again. Let's see if we get a successful connection to the cluster. Yep, we have it connected to remote server, and we are now ready to develop. So let's grab this again, so it refreshes to make sure that it runs on the latest version of what we have in our workspace. Everything seems to work fine. Alright, so let's get the modification to our process. So if you recall from what we had before in our configuration, we have the password hard-coded here. So what we want to do is that we want to create a variable that will keep the password. It will be an internal variable, meaning that it won't be exposed to over the REST API to the consumers of the service. So let's create new data object, and let's call it password. We attach the custom attributes to it, tags, and that is internal, to make sure it's not going to show up there. And let's see if we have string. Yes, we have string here. Perfect. So we have it here. Let's make sure that we use it here. Just enlarge this one, so it won't be an expression anymore. We will use the data item, and we simply use the password one. Again, everything else stays the same. We do the same here, and that's the data item. And we simply drop the password as the data item here. Alright, so we have the password, but it's not initialized. So let's create another task that will simply get this going. So we create a service task, and we want to grab this. Let's put it here like that. And we drop this connection, and we want to go to. So we want to go to our task. Maybe it won't look that good, but yeah, it will actually show. So we have it created. So that would be to create password or generate. So right now we have this created. So let's create a service that will actually be responsible for generating the password. So we say password service. Just make sure that this service is a proper bean, so application scope, and we create a method. Let's put it whatever right now. Alright, so what we do here, now we would want to add this service to our workflow definition. And we simply give it here, password service, and then we just add the operation, which was generate. Then here, what we do is we try this, so we just find the Java based implementation, we find our password service generate, and that's pretty much it. We save it, we don't have to validate it. Alright, everything seems to be there. So let's see what our remote site thinks about that. If everything goes well, we should have the new image generated. Let's give it a while. And yes, we have it. So we have the generate password. We don't have any instances, so let's try to create a resource, meaning our schema. Apply, Where do we have our schema? Let's see, I cannot find it. Here we have it. So we create it. See what happens. Yeah, we have one instance of the workflow. So you can see that's the name of our schema as defined in CR. Alright, and we have it here. So it generated the password. Now we have this running in error mode right now, because most likely we had a bit of information. So let's refresh it and see what happens here. Yep, everything went here, so it resolved, but this one failed. So we didn't approach anything here, but here we have a null pointer in our error. So that means that our execution of this little guy failed. And that is expected because the password was not properly mapped, because we did the generation of it, but we forget about setting the output of it. So it's as simple as here, that we need to get the value of our task, and this is of type string, and we map it to our password. That was the missing bit. So if we now save it again, and we need to create a new resource to make sure, because we want to have a fresh installation. So let's put here MySQL 2. Let's see, we refresh this one. Get it in one. Alright, as you can see, the old one is still there because Automatiko preserves the processing of workflow instances. So let's give it a try with another schema. So we should have number 2. And let's see, you see this one is already marked as error. So we can then look at it and try to fix the information remaining in the process, in the workflow instance. But we can take a look here. And here we have everything smoothly go through all the parts. All the information, we have it here as well. Alright, so with that you can see that it's extremely efficient to actually use Automatiko based on Quarkus and remote dev mode to actually develop your operator right in the Kubernetes cluster. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more videos.